basically only conquered about 5% of southern Lebanon. Most
Hmm.
never touched on the ground. There were military, the air attacks on things like that. But as far as the Hezbollah really never had to leave. That's one of the reasons there were not many Israeli casualties. Israel didn't really go more than a few kilometers in from the Israeli border into Lebanon. And one of the PowerPoints I give shows a map, and people are always astounded. And this is from the Alma Center, which is a great think tank up in the north, showing how little Israel penetrated there. But it's devastation, air devastation of their missiles, whether in the Bekaa Valley in the north or the missiles in the south, was pretty devastating.
But the hope there is that eventually there was an earlier resolution, I guess, that required a deeper buffer zone, and the hope is to get back to that.
Okay, so what really should be going on is a resolution before 1701, which was called 1559, which
Hmm.
meant for the whole country, there's got to be one armed forces, and basically Hezbollah has to be disarmed. Everybody gave up on that one, and they went to 1701, just like basically keep the South free of Hezbollah, and that never happened. People forget after 2006 war, you're talking less than 20 years ago, you have an international force, UNIFIL, that's there, and they've stopped, oh, I don't know, zero of the 150,000 missiles that were transported from Iran through Syria, through Iraq, Syria, and into Lebanon.
Mm. All right, so I want to go down to Yemen and the Houthis and including Iran, but before we go there, I want to go up north. And what does Turkey have to do with all of this that's going on up there, if
So,
any?
who are the winners and losers so far for this year? Turkey's a winner. Turkey's an ascendancy. It's it is backing HTS, that's Al Shara's group, and so that Turkey now becomes the new power player in Syria. Who's the loser? Iran. Iran was there. Where does that leave the Russians? And then what's the Turkish-Russia role? Well, Russia has a warm water base on the Mediterranean in Syria called Tartus, and a base, Kanium, that's an air base, and they're trying to negotiate with the Syrians to say that they can still stay there. Turks love this because now they know that Moscow knows its address to deal with its bases in Syria is in Ankara, in Erdogan. And so, these are not natural allies for one another. Turkey, let me just take a step back. Turkey is, they're the second largest military in NATO. They are a frenemy at best. And when I say that, they are a anti-Semitic, anti-American regime that has Erdogan over the last 20 years has eviscerated any liberal parts of Turkey, that being the judiciary, the media. They jail more journalists than any other country in the world.
Did,
Uh,
didn't didn't they also they're a member of NATO, but they bought Russian air defense systems?
So what happened was a few years back, they're supposed to be part of NATO. They were part of the F-35 program. In fact, even making some components from it. And they wanted to buy the American Patriot system, supposedly, whatever it is, it fell apart. And they ended up saying, okay, we're going to buy the Russian S-400 system, the most advanced anti-missile system, which is supposed to knock down the F-35s. So our government, on a bipartisan level, said, no way, you're out of the F-35 program until you give up your S-400s. The Biden administration compromised with them and gave them F-16s, but they want to get back into the F-35 program. Um, it is certainly possible, but it's the worst possible thing that we can do to enable Turkey until they 100% get rid of their S-400 systems, because our tens of hundreds of billions of dollars investment, maybe it's trillions, into the F-35 program would be vulnerable because the Russians with their S-400s would be able to learn about how to get rid of our stealth capabilities, and Israel's for that matter. The problem is Trump has a good relationship with Erdogan, and I wouldn't want Erdogan sweet talking Trump into doing that. That would be a catastrophe for American national security.
All right. All right. So that's Turkey. So that's troubling. That's troubling up there. If we go down to Yemen and the Houthis, and we know they've been firing missiles, ballistic missiles into Israel, kind of at they every once in a while they lob one in. Nothing seems to have made any done any real damage. But I have two questions about this. Why are they kind of untouchable? Why doesn't anybody really just go in there and and bomb the heck out of them, you know, just to stop it, whether it's Israel or whether it's the states.
Well, first of all, the address to get the Houthis to stop is in Tehran, because Tehran is the one who supplies them with its missiles. So if America said, and President Trump said this, but has not backed it up yet, that we know that it's Tehran, that, the Iranian Revolutionary Guards Corps that is doing this. So what should happen is the next time a missile comes in, we send a missile into Karg Island, where their fossil fuels come, Iran's fossil fuels come out of. We send a missile into Bandar al-Abbas, which is the container port, to make them pay a price, the Iranians, on Iranian soil. That's one of the brilliant ideas of the evil of the 12 Shiites of Iran, is that they use proxies and they use plausible deniability. Well, we didn't do it. I mean, how stupid can we be? I was thrilled that President Trump made the connected the dots and say the Houthis are Iran. Now, they don't control them like the way they control Hezbollah, but they control them enough they could end the shipment of arms and missiles to the Houthis. And that's the way, if you want to stop. The idea that America has allowed, since October 7th, basically, the Red Sea, Bab el-Mandeb, to be closed is beyond profoundly embarrassing. That undermines what America does. Freedom of navigation in the world and the seas is a profound, important thing for our world economic order. And the fact that we've allowed this to go on for this long. And
Mhm.
again, the answer is don't shoot the Houthis, make the Iranians pay themselves.
All right. And that brings us to Iran. Uh, Israel doesn't have any direct relations with them, I gather. They're it's everybody seems to know that everything's being run through Iran. We know they've got this nuclear program that I guess they're very good at fission, right? At making fissile material, whatever, if I'm saying using the word right. And everybody screams and yells, but nobody does anything about it. So I guess my question is now, since Israel took out the air defense systems a few months ago, and you have a new administration that may be more amenable to it, is now the time that somebody's going to do something?
So you have a window of opportunity. So why is there a window of opportunity if you've destroyed their a defense array? Well, the Russians can resupply them. If there ends up being a ceasefire, for example, in Ukraine between the Russian and Ukrainians, Russia could transfer S-300 missile defense systems and maybe even S-400 systems, which is had promised Iran, from that theater to Iran. Why does Russia help Iran? Iran produces its drones and missiles and other things that became very effective in destroying so much of Ukraine. So there is a window of opportunity of what to do here. I'm going to take a step back. So you mentioned people just realize the parts of a nuclear program are, one is to be able to enrich uranium. The Iranians know how to do this. They can make enough in a short order for many, many bombs. The second is, can they deliver a bomb? Yes, they have ballistic missiles. They have the two largest ballistic missile attacks in modern history, have occurred when attacking Israel, both in April and in October, this past October and past April. What they supposedly don't have is the weaponization part, where the computer modeling, the meteorology, that they can turn the nuclear material into small spheres. They haven't tested it yet. And how far away are they from that? We know they are interested because Israel stole the nuclear archives, and we know that they're not that far away to do it. And if they are backed into a corner, that is, their free hand to get out. We're now a nuclear power. By the way, they could also talk to their friends, the North Koreans, who could put on a ship 4 or 5 nuclear missiles out of maybe the 200 they have and ship them over to Iran, and Iran automatically could become a nuclear power. There is an opportunity here. Now, the president says he basically wants to negotiate. He wants to negotiate under pressure, that he's bringing back maximum sanctions. Supposedly, according to Al Monitor today, we moved B-52 bombers that could deliver bunker buster missiles, what's called the mother of all bombs, the father of all bombs that deeply penetrates is in Diego Garcia in the Indian Ocean. So there's a lot of threats. But if negotiations haven't started, Iran knows it has time. And so when will they have that breakout? And would we even know that they have that breakout? These are true believers. What worries me about the administration, and I think you saw that a little bit in an envoy Wickoff's statement about Hamas, is he thought that these people could be negotiated with. Their ideology is not fixed; it can change. Jihadist, radical Islamic jihadism, whether it's the Shiite or the Sunni variety, is not changing. The ISIS, the Al Qaedas, the Boko Harams, the 12 Shiites, they are not changing of what they are. And so to think that you can negotiate with them, and I wrote a piece about this for The Hill a couple of months ago, do these very good negotiators of real estate deals in New York think that they can have deals with jihadists the same way they did, hardballed other New York real estate negotiators? I worry that they don't realize who these people really are, and they may be fooled about it. I certainly think the Iranians have proven how much they manipulated during the Obama administration to make people believe things that were clearly not true.
Hmm. All right. So we have an opportunity now. I know that I read, I think it was an article you wrote about, that there's been time limitations set. You have to do something within a certain amount of time. The European Union said one thing, the US said another, I guess. And so the hope is that they get into some kind of a negotiation so that the clock can actually start running, and then a decision can be made of maybe to do something. Is the Netanyahu government in a strong enough position now to go out and do something if they need to?
So
Recognizing that they don't have the right ordinance, I guess, but
right. The clock is ticking. What does a clock ticking mean? There really is a clock in that there are snapback sanctions that are related to the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the companion that was in the UN, and you can snap them back up into October of 2025, and after that you can't. So it's up now. The Europeans have showed cowardliness again and again and again, and they're supposedly talking a little tougher. We're talking about France, Germany, and England. So until the negotiations start, there's supposed to be a time clock. The Trump administration said we're going to want to have an answer in 2 months. Well, nothing's happened. They don't want to negotiate yet. The Iranians are going to drag this out, and then they'll offer a couple of crumbs, and then a few more crumbs and a few more crumbs, saying maybe we're close, maybe we'll let that deadline pass. There's really needs to be a deadline. To my mind, I would say July 1st, no matter what.
mhm. Okay. All right. Well, thank you for that. Let's switch now. I'd like to come back here to what's going on college campuses, and then, if time permitting, if we can talk a little bit about what's going on politically in Israel, and how that impacts all of this. But look, to be in the States and to see everything that went on over the last year and a half, it was heartbreaking and scary. And I know that a lot of the people here probably have seen the October 8th film, that shows not October 7th, but what happened afterwards. And I guess I want to ask you, and you've spoken, I think you told me 12 college campuses you've spoken on. Is the situation there, is the anti-Semitic situation there as bad as we are seeing? And I have to go in two places: the students, and then the administration, slash professors. Is it really, is it really scary to be on those campuses as a Jewish student?
It has certainly been. There was absolute intimidation, threats of violence, places Jewish kids couldn't walk, certainly couldn't wear a Jewish ornament, a Jewish star, a kippah. Yeah, it was terrible. I remember being in BU, how fearful the kids were. Some universities better than others. Some have made some good progress, and so some have shaped up. I think the quintessential school of anti-Semitism is in our backyard in New York,